You know, I was talking about why we do what we do. And been doing this for my whole career. When I've been working as a national coach, you get all these kids and you ask them, why do you play tennis? And so many of them said, well, you know, my parents make me, or my parents showed me, or they showed me the route. A lot of them say because they wanted to get a college scholarship. Other players said, and it was one of the first years I was doing this, one of the first things a kid said to me, as the first guy in line or in the room, I said, why do you play tennis? And the kid says, I want to be #1 in the world. And I was thinking, wow. But then everybody else in the room, there's like 24 kids, and we're trying to pick the national team, and all the boys started to heckle and to jeer him, and they say, well, what are you talking about? To be the #1 player in the world. I mean, this is a joke. I mean, you're 16 years old. And so then the other kids would say, well, it's a good way to meet girls. Why do I play? It's a good way to meet girls. I want to be a pro. So once that guy said #1 in the world, the other guys were starting to say, well, I want to be a professional. I want to go to college. I want to be a professional tennis player. And I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm just listening right now. When the guy started to heckle the first guy, though, I said, basically, man, we honor everything, every dream, every desire that anybody has. So we get to around 7 guys down the line, and another guy goes, I want to be #1 in the world. And I went, whoa. And then I really went, whoa. Everybody in the room went, whoa. Nobody heckled the second guy. Not that he was anybody special, but just for the fact, and as a matter of fact, he was probably the shyest kid in the room. And then everybody kept going on and on. Well, we always do, and this is something that we all should do in our lives. We debrief. After the end of it, all the coaches, we get together because we're going to talk about our plans. We're going to prepare. We're going to have preparation in terms of what we're going to do the next day, in terms of what we're going to do in terms of training, what we're going to do in terms of the practices, in terms of talking about tactics, technique, strategy, all those different things. But we get back to the first thing we were thinking of is, why did they play? And they wanted to be #1 in the world. And we realized, and I realized, and I stated it, and I articulated it, and I wrote, and I raised that idea, which is there's a lot of room for being #1. Everyone wants to be #1, but #1 doesn't mean it's a solo position. There's a lot of room for being #1. Well, as it turned out, several years later, when they turned 18 and 19, the first kid to say it was Jim Courier. Jim Courier went on to be the #1 player in the world for 2 years. Then the guy that said it a little bit later was Pete Sampras, who went on to be #1 in the world for 7 years. He was like a legend. The other guys in that room were Andre Agassi, who was kind of a wild child, you know, off the charts. He was the one who said that he played tennis because his dad made him play. His dad made him play. That's the reason. He had this rebel in him. It was like this anger. And so I realized there's no way I'm going to be a father figure to this kid. What I'm going to be to this kid is I'm going to be a light. I'm going to be a shining light. And it's all about the happiness is why you play. Now, what I was looking for when I asked them why they played was to find the happiness ticket, that it fulfilled them, and that it wasn't about posterity. Posterity is making money. It's having, you know, wealth. It's having a position. But it was more about posterity, which is personal enrichment. And when you have personal enrichment, what happens is then you affect other people. And that's the reason I was called. I was called to be a coach. But what happens is I really dug that. I really dug the idea of why people are playing. So now let's fast forward to 1998 when I again was a national coach. I was a national coach in the 80s and I was a national coach in the 90s. And in the 90s until 2003. And I asked the same question. And by this time, we had, you know, we wanted people to go for fun. You know, we wanted to play for fun. We wanted people to work for fun. We wanted people to feel like they didn't have a career, but they had a calling. That it wasn't just a profession. It was something they were called to. We were looking for the happiness ingredient, which motivates everybody in different ways. I mean, you know, the guy that's a janitor in the school when I went to high school was the happiest man there. He made the most profound effect on everybody. They've named a building after this guy at my high school now. And you think about it, this is in the 70s. The man's passed away, but his impact on our school, on our students, on our faculty was phenomenal. It was powerful. Now, what did he have? Well, he had that joy, what he loved to do. He loved to be with the kids. He loved to go watch the games. He would come into the classrooms. And here's this man that had basically no education, came from another country, he was an immigrant, came here, and all of a sudden he flourished in this place, which was his home. Where he lived was a home. So basically what you found is that he looked at it as his home. His kids went to the same high school I went to. And they grew up and they were a part of the fabric of the community, and so was he. He found joy there to be able to belong. Okay, so this is all I have. We're all going in some direction right now, so you got to hang with me. So the 1998, I asked a bunch of kids why they play. And in the room, they go the same answers. College scholarships, be a pro. No one ever used to say, though, be #1 in the world after that. But to be a pro, to live life to the fullest. And like I said, you always get some guys saying it's a great way to meet girls. So what happened? Every time, believe me, when you get 25 guys in a room, one guy's going to think it's like, why do guys learn to play the guitar and that? Usually they're really nerdy guys, and all of a sudden they realize that they're going to get all the dates more than anybody else, even more than the quarterback of the football team. And so that's the reason they learn to play music. Well, these guys in tennis, it's the same thing they play because they figure if there's at least someone out there, some girl would like to meet them. So they always say that. But we were doing the same gig, and all of a sudden some kid looks at me and he says, I play for the feeling. And I went, then I said, whoa, whoa. And it hit me. And I go, oh my God, this guy's got it. And it hit me immediately because I had never heard it. The feeling. Does that drive us? It does drive us. How you feel, who you are. I'm not talking about everybody else. I'm talking about how you feel and what turns you on, and that turns on your light and that gives you radiance. It's, the feeling. So I looked and I said, out of the mouth of babes, and the kid was 15 years old, and he says it's beautiful, and he turned out to be a world-class pro. But what happened was he said he played for the feeling. So we do our debriefing again. And I look at my colleagues, and I said, he's got it. That's it. The feeling. Happiness is a feeling, right? And the sense, and so it kind of lit. So I said to the coaches, I go, what do you think the greatest feeling is? And we all had different ideas. What do you think the greatest feeling is? Now imagine if you're a tennis player or you're an athlete, you're a member of the football team here. And I said, what's the greatest feeling? What do you think they would say? Winning. Yep, always. 99 times out of 100, it's winning. And that night, and I'll never forget it because it's basically everything that's happened to me in my life, I've always gone back to that night. And I looked at the coaches and they said, it's the win, coach. It's the win. This was my staff. He says, it's winning. And I thought, no, it's not. It's not, because you limit yourself based on wins and losses, right? Because will there be failure in our life? We will screw up, believe me. I've screwed up. I'm going to screw up again. I've made some wrong decisions then. But that doesn't define who I am. It doesn't define my happiness. What I felt with the greatest feeling, and the players, when I tell them that, they always say that. It's the win, coach. My team here at Boise State, I always ask the new guys because the older guys have heard this. But when I talk to my new freshmen, I have 2 new freshmen coming in this week. As a matter of fact, one's coming the day that you're going to be watching this. And they're going to come in, and once we get them in there, I'll get the whole team together, and the sophomores, juniors, and seniors can't say a word. I look at the freshmen and go, why do you play? And they're going to say, or what's the greatest feeling? And they're going to say, the greatest feeling is to win, coach. And it's not. The greatest feeling is to play. Now, understand what play means. Play doesn't just mean tennis. It doesn't mean a sport. It doesn't mean just playing music. It means everything that you do in your life, which means it's to participate. It means to be active. It means to be doing something. You want to live longer? Be involved. If you want to be healthy, be involved. Now, I tell my players this. What we're looking for is a person that plays, who wants to play, who wants to be in the spotlight, who wants to have the crowd, who wants to have the fact that and in tennis, we play naked in a sense because you cannot be hidden with other guys running around the field. When you play, you're by yourself against your opponent. People can tell your mistakes. They can tell when you're upset. They can tell when you're joyful. You are there for them to see. Sometimes it's incredibly stressful, but they do it because they love the feeling. They love the feeling of playing, and they understand. Now think about it in my sport. We go to a tournament. I've been at, the last 4 weeks, I've been at 5 different tournaments. I coached a national team at a national event back in the Midwest. And the thing is, you have 32 competitors, and you win, you keep going on. You lose, you go down to the loser's bracket. If you lose again, you're done. If you win, you keep getting to play. So in that tournament, I had a team tournament. So I had 6 guys on my team, 32 teams. I'm sorry, there's 16 teams. So you just multiply that by 6. Look how many guys are playing. Now the majority of the players are going to be knocked out and lose. In a tournament, individual tournament, the NCAA's had a player playing it. There's 64 players. Only one person wins. Does that mean the other 63 failed? Does that mean the rest of the 63 are no good, that they're crap? No. The whole thing that we talked about is that by participating, by playing, that's the joy. It's the greatest feeling to be out there. Who wants to sit on the bench in a game? Nobody does. Everybody wants to play. So that's the whole idea, is that we've got to search that out in your life. The next greatest feeling is the serve. It makes you feel good. It makes you happy. That's the reason I love to coach. That's the reason I love to speak. That's the reason I love to go out and do those things, because it makes me happy. I love to serve others. And it's funny, serving others could even be, I just had a tennis camp. I had a guy who's a veterinarian, and we were talking about this very thing. And his serving was serving the innocent people in his life, which were animals. It was incredible, because I never thought of it that way. We were talking about our dogs, and all of a sudden he started talking. He was a veterinarian, and I go, oh, you must love animals. And he did. He was like Dr. Doolittle. It was so true that, you know, we serve. And I said, do you understand that you serve? You serve like animals. And then people love him because he's, like I said, you're Dr. Doolittle. All the animals love you, so everybody has to love you. And you love the feeling of being loved. And he said, you got it. He says, I realized no one ever said that to me before. I said, well, just listen to me. First is to play. Second is to serve others. The third greatest feeling is do it well. Do it well. Don't do anything half-assed. Do it well. Why? Why? For the one reason is it feels good. Just the basic feeling. Everything else comes. That is the manure. That is what feeds the soil. If it feels good doing it, and all of a sudden you see all these beautiful things grow out of it. So if I try as a coach, as a very simple guy, I don't know anything except I know tennis. I know how to ball over a net into a court. Right? That's pretty simple. But what you're touching, what you're enlightening, what you're impacting is the spirit of the person that's playing, right? And that they get into it. So, but do it well. And that's where I come in, and that's where we all come in, is that we challenge sometimes people to do it well. Is, basically, just don't do it great. Do it so it radiates with beauty, has resonance. The fourth thing, I say, is the win. It affirms what you're doing. It affirms what you're doing. But don't expect to win all the time. Nobody does. Nobody does. LeBron James, Miami Heat, greatest basketball ever. Michael Jordan, did they ever lose the NBA championships? Yeah. Yeah. You know what? But that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't define them not less of a champion. So you have these. So that is the basis of everything that I'm about, is why you do what you do. Why you do what you do. Now, how do we impact others? Now, this is where we want to get into the meat and the potatoes and the hamburger and the beans and the macaroni. Is how do we do this? Well, you got to be a leader. You got to be a leader of your own life. Okay? And so to do that, to be a leader in your own life, what are certain things I think really are basic? Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Got that? Nobody cares. I get guys, for example, they don't know me. I coach the national team in Europe every December. I go there, and I'm the coach from Boise State. A lot of people don't even know where the hell Boise State is. So I'm getting the guys that played for Duke. My team last year was a kid from Ohio State. They were 2 in the nation. The other kid was from UCLA. Like, that's big time glitter, rock and roll. And then the third guy on my team was, oh my gosh, Virginia, the #1 team in the nation. And I'm the coach from Boise State. Now, they know about me, and they've heard about me, but a lot of them have always seen me on the other side of the court, right? Or they've seen me around, but they've never interacted with me, okay? And you know what I learned? And they knew I was a national coach. They know I've coached the pros. But they don't care at all about what I know. And so they knew how much I cared about them, that they were on this journey with me at this time.